When you look poor, you don't just lack money. You lose leverage, respect, and protection. The world smells weakness on you and tightens every door. Power does not begin in your bank account. It begins in the eyes of the observer. Before you speak, before you negotiate, before you prove competence, people measure you. They scan your clothes, your posture, your grooming, your watch, your shoes, your silence. In seconds, they assign you a category: asset, threat, equal, or disposable. If you look poor, the verdict is delivered instantly. This is not about money, it is about signals. Humans are ancient creatures running modern software. We evolved in tribes where resources meant survival. Those who possessed visible abundance were protected. Those who did not were burdens. That wiring never disappeared. It simply adapted to suits, offices, restaurants, business meetings, and social media profiles. You think people evaluate character. They evaluate leverage. When you look poor, you appear resource-starved. Resource-starved means low influence. Low influence means low consequence. And a man with low consequence can be ignored, underpaid, overworked, lied to, delayed, dismissed. Not because people are evil, because systems optimize for power. Imagine two identical men walking into a room, same intelligence, same capability, same discipline. One looks controlled, structured, intentional, clean lines, calm movement, composed silence. The other looks unstable, worn clothing, tension in posture, hesitation in speech. The room reacts differently. The first man is assumed competent until proven otherwise. The second must prove competence before being tolerated. This is the tax of poor optics. Most men sabotage themselves here. They cling to moral superiority. I'm real. I don't care what people think. Let them judge. That is emotional rebellion, not strategy. The world is not a therapist. It does not reward authenticity. It rewards signals of value. Looking poor communicates three things subconsciously. You lack control. You lack options. You lack protection. And once those assumptions form, every interaction shifts. Prices rise, respect drops, patience shortens, boundaries get tested. You are not treated based on who you are. You are treated based on what you seem able to command. This is why elites obsess over optics, not because they are insecure, but because they understand leverage psychology. Kings wore crowns not for comfort, but for intimidation. Generals wore medals not for decoration, but for hierarchy enforcement. Perception is pre-negotiation warfare. If you enter any environment looking economically fragile, you start from beneath. Even if you are intelligent, even if you are dangerous, even if you are building. People respond to stability. Stability looks expensive, even when it is. Understand this clearly. Looking poor is not about lacking luxury. It is about projecting instability. Wrinkled clothes signal chaos. Cheap grooming signals neglect. Desperation in tone signals dependency. Overexplaining signals low status. Every micro-signal compounds. You may say, but I am building. I don't have money yet. That is irrelevant. There is a difference between being temporarily broke and appearing permanently low status. One is a phase. The other is an identity broadcast. The mistake most men make is believing merit will override optics. It won't. Merit is evaluated after access is granted. Optics determine access. If doors feel heavy, if opportunities feel delayed, if people subtly patronize you, if negotiations tilt against you before they begin, it may not be your talent. It may be your presentation. The brutal truth is this: poverty is contagious in perception. People distance themselves from what looks like decline. They gravitate toward what looks like ascent. You don't have to be rich, but you cannot afford to look like you're sinking. This is the first lens shift. You are not judged on effort. You are judged on signals. and signals can be engineered. You believe people think before they rank you. They don't. The ranking happens first. Long before language evolved, the human brain developed a survival function: scan, assess, assign position. Who leads, who follows, who threatens, who submits. This hierarchy instinct is older than morality, older than law, older than civilization. It is automatic. When someone sees you, their brain runs a status algorithm in milliseconds. It analyzes posture, symmetry, clothing quality, grooming precision, vocal steadiness, eye contact, spatial occupation. Not consciously, mechanically. The question beneath it all is simple. Where does this man sit in the hierarchy? If you look poor, the algorithm fills in the blanks for you. Low resources, right arrow, low power. Low power, right arrow, low risk. Low risk, right arrow, low priority. This is not cruelty, it is efficiency. The brain conserves energy by making predictive shortcuts. If your external signals imply scarcity, the observer assumes limited influence, limited network, limited consequence. You are processed as someone who needs something, not someone who controls something. And the one who needs is always weaker than the one who controls. Here is the uncomfortable layer. Status perception is deeply biological. In primate hierarchies, dominance is displayed through grooming quality, body condition, controlled movement, and territory occupation. The alpha does not rush. He does not fidget. He does not look depleted. He looks resourced. Humans evolved from the same structure. When you appear unpolished or unstable, the primitive brain reads it as poor fitness. Not genetic fitness alone, but environmental fitness. Your ability to secure and maintain resources. And in every social exchange, people instinctively align upward. They defer to what looks stable. They challenge what looks unstable. This is why two men can say the exact same sentence and receive opposite reactions. The words are secondary. The perceived rank determines interpretation. A confident tone from a well-presented man is leadership. The same tone from a poorly presented man is arrogance. A direct boundary from a high-status man is strength. The same boundary from a low-status man is attitude. The message does not change. The status changes. Your brain does this too. You are not exempt. When you see a sharply dressed executive walking with calm precision, you assume competence. When you see someone disorganized and worn down, you assume struggle. You don't ask for proof first. You categorize. This is the status algorithm at work. Now understand the danger. Once you are categorized, confirmation bias locks in. People unconsciously look for evidence to validate their first judgment. If they perceive you as low status, they will notice your mistakes more. They will interpret your silence as insecurity, your ambition as delusion. You are fighting uphill from the first second. This is why looking poor becomes self-fulfilling. It narrows access. Limited access reduces opportunity. Reduced opportunity reinforces visible scarcity. The cycle tightens. Most men try to break this cycle through effort alone. They work harder, they talk more, they over-explain, they attempt to compensate. Compensation lowers status further. High-status individuals do not chase validation. They radiate assumption of value. The algorithm respects certainty. When you present controlled aesthetics, deliberate movement, structured speech, and visual stability, you interrupt the brain's scarcity shortcut. You force recalibration. You signal consequence. And consequence changes behavior. People hesitate before disrespecting what looks protected. They listen longer to what looks resourced. They negotiate differently with what looks established. You are not manipulating minds. You are understanding wiring. The status algorithm does not care about your intentions. It reacts to cues. And if you do not control your cues, they will control your treatment. This is not about vanity. It is about neurological leverage. If you ignore this, you will keep wondering why doors close softly in your face. The door is not rejecting you. The algorithm already did. Once you are perceived as low status, something shifts in the room. It's subtle, not dramatic. No one announces it. But roles are assigned. When you look poor, you don't just lose respect. You activate specific archetypes in others. Human behavior reorganizes around perceived hierarchy, and different personalities respond to your perceived scarcity in predictable ways. You are no longer interacting with individuals. You are interacting with instincts. The first archetype is the predator. Predators do not attack strength, they probe weakness. If you look financially unstable, disorganized, or desperate, the predator senses low consequence. They interrupt you mid-sentence. They test your boundaries. They delay payments. They push unfair terms. They speak over you in meetings. Not because they hate you, because they calculate risk. A man who looks resourced might retaliate. He might have connections. He might escalate. He might walk away. A man who looks poor, he needs the deal. Predators exploit need. The second archetype is the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers control access, jobs, networks, information, rooms. Their job is filtration, and filtration runs on fast judgments. When you look unstable, you are filtered out quietly. Your email gets delayed. Your application is under review. Your proposal is interesting but not aligned. They may even be polite, but you are deprioritized. Gatekeepers align upward. They want association with ascent, not decline. If you appear like someone struggling to stay afloat, you are risk. You are maintenance. You are drag. And gatekeepers avoid drag. The third archetype is the opportunist. This one is more dangerous because it comes disguised as help. Opportunists see someone who looks resource-light and think leverage. They offer mentorship with hidden strings, partnerships tilted in their favor, advice that keeps you dependent. They don't want you powerful. They want you grateful. If you look poor, they assume your standards are low, that you will accept less, that you will tolerate disrespect because you lack options. And often they're right. This is where most men make a fatal error. They internalize the treatment. They assume the problem is skill, charisma, or luck. But often, the treatment precedes the evaluation. You were ranked before you were assessed. And once ranked low, people adjust behavior accordingly. Watch carefully. People interrupt low-status men more. They question their decisions more. They pay them slower. They negotiate harder. They joke at their expense. But when the same man upgrades his presentation, controlled wardrobe, structured speech, visible discipline, the behavior shifts. Fewer interruptions, more listening, faster responses, stronger eye contact. Same man, different optics. This is not magic. It is hierarchy recalibration. Even historical power strategists understood this. Niccolo Machiavelli emphasized that a ruler must appear strong even when vulnerable. Appearance was not deception, it was defense. A prince who looked weak invited invasion. A prince who projected strength discouraged attack. The principle remains. If you appear economically fragile, you invite pressure. Not always consciously, not always maliciously, but predictably. Human beings test what looks safe to test. And low-status presentation signals safety to challenge. Understand this clearly. People do not treat you based on fairness. They treat you based on perceived leverage. Predators calculate dominance. Gatekeepers calculate association value. Opportunists calculate extraction potential. If your optics scream scarcity, you become an opportunity for them. You may be intelligent, capable, ambitious. But if you look like you need something, You will be handled like someone who needs something. And the man who needs is never negotiated with as an equal. This is not about blaming others. It is about recognizing the battlefield. You are not being targeted randomly. You are being categorized. You think this is modern. It is. This hierarchy reflex did not begin with corporate offices, social media, or luxury brands. It was present in royal courts, battlefields, merchant guilds, and empires long before you were born. Power has always obeyed optics. In Renaissance courts, appearance was not vanity, it was survival. A nobleman dressed beneath his station was not seen as humble. He was seen as declining, and decline invited displacement. This is the environment that shaped Niccolò Machiavelli. He did not write about morality, he wrote about preservation. In The Prince, the lesson is clear. It is safer to be feared than loved when you cannot be both. But beneath that is a deeper rule: never appear weak, because weakness invites calculation. A ruler who looked unstable triggered ambition in others. Advisors began whispering, rivals began aligning, enemies began testing borders. Not because they were evil, because instability creates opportunity. History repeats this pattern with brutal consistency. Armies marched toward kingdoms that appeared fractured. Merchants extended credit to houses that appeared stable. Alliances formed around banners that looked strong. Even uniforms were engineered for psychological impact. Armor was polished, capes were dramatic, symbols were oversized, not for comfort, for intimidation. Because perception precedes engagement. When a king appeared impoverished, thin, anxious, or poorly guarded, rebellion brewed. When he appeared composed, well-resourced, and unbothered, dissent hesitated. Optics delay attack. And in power dynamics, delay is survival. You see this even outside monarchies. In early industrial eras, tycoons built massive offices and residences before their empires were fully secure. Marble entrances, tall columns, immaculate presentation. Why? Because scale discourages challenge. When something looks large, people assume backing. When something looks small, people assume vulnerability. The same rule applies to you. If you present yourself as economically fragile, the environment shifts around you. Employers offer less, partners negotiate harder, clients delay payment. Social circles rank you lower. Not because they've audited your bank account, because they've read your signals. History teaches a cold truth. Power is rarely seized from those who look strong. It is taken from those who look like they are losing. Consider political coups. They rarely occur at the peak of visible dominance. They occur when leadership appears divided, exhausted, weakened. Perception creates permission. Once others sense decline, they justify encroachment. They call it opportunity, strategy, timing. But it began with optics. Now apply this to your life. If you show up to negotiations looking under-resourced, you trigger competitive instinct. If you appear dependent, you invite exploitation. If you look replaceable, you are treated as replaceable. This is not emotional, it is structural. Humans align with stability because stability increases their own survival odds. Associating with strength elevates them. Associating with visible struggle threatens their standing. So they distance themselves from what looks like decline. This is why looking poor has consequences beyond money. It signals trajectory. Are you ascending or sinking? History sides with ascent. And history punishes visible weakness. The brutal consistency is this: power protects itself. Strength aligns with strength. Scarcity attracts pressure. You may not be a king, but you are still operating inside a hierarchy. And hierarchies have never been kind to those who look like they are falling. Now you understand the battlefield. Good. Understanding without adjustment is weakness. You don't need to become wealthy overnight. You need to become visually controlled. Perception is not about luxury. It is about discipline. Discipline signals stability. Stability signals power. The first weapon is visual order. Clean lines, neutral colors, proper fit, polished shoes, structured grooming, no excess, no chaos, nothing loud, nothing desperate. You are not trying to impress, you are trying to signal control. Control is expensive. A wrinkled shirt says you are overwhelmed. Scuffed shoes say you tolerate decay. Over-accessorizing says you are compensating. Minimalism done precisely is dominance. It tells the room, I choose what is seen. The second weapon is movement. High-status men do not rush. They occupy space without apology. They sit fully. They stand straight. They walk with measured pace. Rushing signals scarcity of time and options. Fidgeting signals internal instability. Oversmiling signals need for approval. Stillness is authority. When you slow your movements, you force others to adjust to your tempo, and tempo control is subtle dominance. The third weapon is speech. Cut filler words, remove over-explanation, speak in shorter sentences, lower your tone slightly, pause before answering. Men who look poor often speak as if asking permission to exist. They justify opinions. They soften boundaries. They explain why they deserve the opportunity. Stop. You do not beg for oxygen in your own lungs. Do not beg for space in a room. High-value perception is built on assumed entitlement, not arrogance, but calm certainty. The fourth weapon is scarcity projection. Desperation destroys leverage. If you look like you need the deal, you lose the deal. If you look like you need the approval, you lose respect. If you look like you need the invitation, you are placed on standby. You must remove visible hunger. Even when you are building, even when resources are tight, your external frame must communicate, I have options. This is strategic composure. The fifth weapon is environmental alignment. Where you meet people matters, backgrounds matter, context matters, even digital presence matters. Grainy profile photos, chaotic rooms, cluttered spaces, these signal disorganization. Order your environment, neutral backdrop, clean surfaces, controlled lighting. Even if you live modestly, you can present precisely. Perception is curated. Understand something critical. This is not deception. You are not faking wealth. You are eliminating weakness signals. There is a difference. You do not need designer brands. You need structure. You do not need luxury watches. You need consistency. You do not need flashy cars. You need maintained ones. Predictability builds trust. Polish builds assumption. Assumption builds leverage. This is what elites understand intuitively. Presentation is a shield. It reduces friction before conflict begins. And when friction is reduced, access increases. When access increases, opportunity multiplies. Looking stable opens doors that skill alone cannot. Most men sabotage themselves because they romanticize struggle. They believe looking broke proves authenticity. They think visible hustle earns respect. It doesn't. Visible stability earns respect. The world does not reward how hard you are trying. It rewards how controlled you appear. This is perception warfare, and once you master it, you notice something unsettling. People treat you differently. Same income, different signals, more eye contact, less interruption, more patience, better offers. Because you no longer look like prey. You look established, and predators hesitate before testing what looks established. This is not about ego. It is about insulation. You are building armor. The final barrier is not money. It is identity. You can upgrade your wardrobe, Control your posture, refine your speech, but if you still think like a struggling man, it leaks through you. Identity broadcasts louder than fabric. The broke identity is not about income. It is a psychological posture. It is the internal narrative that says, "I'm trying. I'm not there yet. I hope they see my potential." Hope is not leverage. Men who unconsciously identify as struggling move differently. They tolerate delays. They overgratitude small opportunities. They hesitate before setting boundaries. They accept disrespect because they fear losing access. That fear is visible, and visibility invites pressure. To kill the broke identity, you must remove psychological dependency. Dependency is the scent predator's track. If you need approval, you lower your tone. If you need money urgently, you negotiate softly. If you need validation, you overshare. The first shift is internal sovereignty. You stop asking, "Do they choose me?" You start asking, "Do I choose this?" Selection reverses power. The broke identity waits to be accepted. The sovereign identity evaluates. This shift is subtle but devastating. When you internally position yourself as the selector, your micro-behaviors change. You pause longer. You listen more than you speak. You walk away faster. Walking away is the ultimate signal of leverage. Even if your bank account is modest, your posture must not be. Understand this. Poverty becomes permanent when it fuses with personality. If struggling becomes your story, you will unconsciously protect it. You will downplay success to stay relatable. You will resist polish to stay authentic. You will sabotage ascension to avoid alienation. Comfort in struggle is the final trap. Most men cling to it because it feels honest. But honesty without strategy is exposure. The sovereign man does not advertise struggle. He absorbs it privately. He calibrates publicly. He builds quietly. He does not perform hustle. He performs stability. There is a psychological death required here. You must detach from the identity of the overlooked, the underestimated, the underdog who wants recognition. Recognition is crumbs. Respect is structure. To earn structural respect, you must embody inevitability. Inevitable men are not frantic. They are not loud. They are not pleading. They look like outcomes waiting to happen. This is why killing the broke identity feels uncomfortable. It removes emotional drama. It removes victim narratives. It removes the small rewards of sympathy. But sympathy never built power. When you detach from the struggling self-image, you stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your worth. You stop narrating your journey. You let results speak, and until results arrive, you let composure speak. Identity replacement requires repetition. Every time you enter a room, you ask, does my posture signal dependence or dominance? Does my speech signal uncertainty or inevitability? Does my presence signal chaos or control? If any answer reveals weakness, adjust. Not emotionally. Strategically. You are not becoming arrogant. You are becoming insulated. And insulation changes destiny. The world will always test perceived weakness, always. But when you kill the broke identity, something shifts. You no longer move like a man trying to escape scarcity. You move like a man building territory. And territory changes how others behave around you. Now you know the rule. Perception is not cosmetic. It is structural. And structures decide who advances and who stalls. You can ignore this. Many do. They cling to the comfort of moral arguments. People shouldn't judge. Value is internal. Character matters more. That is idealism. Hierarchies are not idealistic. They are selective. Selection operates quietly. It does not announce rejection. It simply withholds access. Promotions go elsewhere. Invitations don't arrive, deals shift, rooms close. You are not attacked. You are bypassed. And bypassed men rarely realize why. This is the final warning. If you refuse to control perception, perception will assign you a place, and it will not be at the top. Status is not granted to the most virtuous. It is granted to the most stable-looking, to the most controlled, to the least visibly desperate. This is why men who are equally talented live radically different lives. One understands optics, the other resents them. Resentment never built leverage. Control does. Even Niccolo Machiavelli understood that survival in power structures required managing appearance. A prince who relied only on goodness invited overthrow. A prince who managed perception prolonged his reign. You are not ruling a kingdom, but you are ruling a trajectory. And trajectory is fragile. If you allow yourself to look perpetually resource-starved, socially unstable, or economically fragile, you become easy to classify. And once classified low, your climb becomes steeper than it needs to be. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The world does not owe you a fair evaluation. It owes you nothing. Every environment you enter is running silent calculations. Does this man elevate us? Does he lower the room? Does he signal strength or dependency? If the answer trends toward dependency, you will be managed, not respected. Management is containment. Respect is autonomy. The elite understand this early. They refine presentation before they refine wealth. They build controlled exteriors before empires are visible. They never allow visible chaos to represent them, because chaos attracts dominance from others. This is selection pressure. Those who adapt survive upward. Those who resist remain average. Those who resent descend. You are being evaluated every day by employers, partners, competitors, even strangers. And you are either engineering that evaluation or surrendering to it. There is no neutral position. If you walk into rooms looking like you are behind, the room will treat you as behind. If you walk in controlled, structured, composed, the room hesitates before ranking you low. Hesitation is opportunity. Opportunity compounds. The final decision is simple. Remain authentic to struggle and accept limited access. Or become strategic in presentation and expand your field. No one is coming to rescue your optics. No one will correct their bias for you. No one will apologize for ranking you. Selection is ruthless. The only question left is this: will you remain a man reacting to hierarchy, or become a man who engineers his place within it?